economically, dominated politically, humiliated and segregated, I don't want peace. If peace means being complacently adjusted to a complacently adjusted to a deadening status quo, I don't want peace. If peace means keeping my mouth shut in the midst of injustice and evil, I don't want it. Peace is not simply the absence of conflict, but the existence of justice for all people.
See, you have to place all of those things into context, right? They want to preach to us about peace. And welcome to the Conscious Hour with Kathleen. I am Kathleen, your conscious coach. Hold on just a second. Today we're talking about Dr. King didn't just have a dream, he had a plan, and that's why they killed him. I am on Clubhouse Live as well, so you may hear some interaction. But hi, guys. Hi, Instagram. Hi, Facebook. Hi, YouTube. All my channels should be open. And I'm also going to type in the chat hello to make sure everybody is good in case you have a comment. I know some of you guys are at work. If you don't catch it now, you're watching the replay. Thank you for watching the replay. I appreciate you. All right. So we're talking about Dr. King didn't just have a dream. He had a plan and why they killed him. The message that we hear echoed time and time again is he had a dream. He had a dream. But what about he had a plan for economic stability for his people? What about his vision for that? What about his vision for fair housing and employment and all of those things, and bank loans and businesses for Black people? What about those things? All of those things are important. So just remember also, if you want to jump on live on the Conscious Hour, just let me know and I'll send you the link. In fact, let me post the link so you can just click on the link and jump in. But we're going to continue the conversation. But that's what our topic is tonight, that we understand as African Americans, as Americans, as people, that it was more than just him having a speech. It was his actual plan for his people. So it goes a little deeper than that. What was that last quote you just shared? Can you share that again?
Absolutely. I'm going to pull it back up. It says, if peace means a willingness to be exploited economically, dominated politically, humiliated, or segregated, I don't want peace. If peace means being complacently adjusted to a deadening status quo, I don't want peace. If peace means keeping my mouth shut in the midst of injustice and evil, I don't want peace. Peace is not simply the absence of conflict, but the existence of justice for all people.
Listen, you about to make me run around this room. You know, I'm Baptist Costal, right? I'm Baptist Costal. I'm about to run around this room because listen, we got to understand, if peace means you get to treat me like crap, I don't want peace. I'm not even here for peace. I don't want a conversation about peace. If peace means you'll always be my boss and I'll always be your employee, I don't want peace. Like that's the part of Dr. King that we have to understand, as well as this I have a dream speech. He was adamant about equality and equity for his people. And I want us to talk about that more than just his, and I'm not calling his speech emotional. Don't get me wrong. I'm not throwing it way over there into that category like it was nothing. I would never do that. But what I'm trying to get us to see is to see past those however many minutes or seconds that they share with us of his 45-minute speech. First, let's start there. Right, the speech was like 45 minutes long or something like that. It was way deeper than the I have a dream. Powerful, moving, but why? Because of the passion he had behind him in terms of bringing our people to an equal status with others. One of the books I picked up earlier this year actually, was this book called This Nonviolent Stuff Will Get You Killed, How Guns Made the Civil Rights Movement Possible, by Charles E. Cobb Jr. This book right here, listen, you guys, we have this thing where they try to teach us nonviolence, and I'm about to go. I got like a whole little list of topics that I want to go through and close this out. But we have a whole a belief that black people, like Dr. King, they always say he was nonviolent. Then, of course, we know Malcolm X was like by any means necessary. In reality, no civil rights leader or organization was nonviolent to the point where they were not ready to protect themselves. Okay. They were not nonviolent to the point where they didn't carry a weapon or people close to them didn't carry a weapon. I don't want black people to think that black people as leaders were out here facing imminent danger and didn't have enough common sense to have firearms. Okay, I'm just putting that out there. Take it how you want to take it. Hi guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, I'm live. Thanks for joining me. Remember, you can always join in the chat or type in the chat, and I can see it on my side. I don't want us to be ignorant of the fact that even though they were passionate and of course they didn't want to bring violence, right? They're not out there seeking civil liberties, to just have a fight. That's not how that goes. But they are conscious of the fact that at any time their life could be in danger. And if possible, they wanted to have the tools to protect themselves. So understand that. So this violent stuff will get you killed. Here's the book, guys. Go pick it up and learn a little bit more about the truth in terms of firearms protection and all of that. A lot of people, don't know about that part of the civil rights movement. So I'm going to move us through a couple of little pieces here. And Clubhouse, I got somebody hanging out with me. So look, do what you got to do. I got to go to work in the morning, so I ain't gonna stay on here all night. So knowing and understanding language was omitted. Let's talk about that first. When you talk about knowing and understanding language, the reason why people talk is to communicate ideas and thoughts, right? Anytime you're communicating with the person, you're trying to either introduce them to something, influence them about something, or correct them. Like you're going to fall into one of those categories. What is the purpose of every year of them giving us this message about Martin Luther King and I had a dream? However, they're omitting truth and facts about what he actually stood for, especially in his last days, because Dr. Martin Luther King began to understand. One interview he had, the host asked him, the host said, well, you want all of these things. I mean, you want fair housing. You want us to give you guys land and you want us to do all of that. And Dr. Martin Luther King was like, well, that's what you did for white people. You gave them land. You gave them houses. You gave them a start to get their business. And the host, yeah. And the host said to him, well, how long are you going to give us? How much time do we have? Do we have 2 months? Do we have 2 years? Let me tell you what Dr. Martin Luther King said, in case y'all don't think he was gangster. And I ain't trying to put gangster on his name. Dr. Martin Luther King said, yesterday. Wow. Okay? He said, yesterday. He was not playing any games with the lives of the people that he carried the burden for, because they omit pieces like that, because they omit the film where he was speaking with President Kennedy and others, because they omit the information about how he approached different political figures, senators, state representative, congressmen, all these things, because they need to add that in their little commercials when they're talking about Dr. King and honoring him on his day. If they added those things, though, how would that make you feel? How would that turn you, right? How would that turn you into an activist? How would that turn you into a person that seeks knowledge? See, that's the thing that they're afraid of, that if they actually shared the truth about his, not dream, but his plan, you and I would become adamant researchers and we would become more progressive. That's the real fear. So they're going to omit all of that, and they're just going to give you some nice background music and let you hear that little part of the speech where he says, I have a dream that black boys and white boys, and I used to know the speech by heart. I studied it. I did. When I was little, I studied that thing just to memorize it. And you know what? I'm like,
add to this what you were saying about if they did educate us on what Martin Luther King actually had planned. I think one thing it's important to notice that every single picture that we have seen of Martin Luther King has been in black and white to create a social, I would call it a disconnect between when this was actually happening and realizing that his plan is yet to be realized. I remember being shown a video. There's this movie they used to show all of us. Anyone who went to school in the 90s and 2000s can say. There's this movie. It was Martin Luther King as a kid with a white boy, and they go back in time and they realize that segregation existed. This is when teachers didn't even know how to teach about racism. They just wanted to show us the cartoon and get it over with. And at the end, it's more like, ooh, aren't we so great for the work that Martin Luther King did? Now we can hang out and be together. When in reality, he was just getting started at the day of his assassination. And also what you were saying about us being educated is he gave us these speeches. He was out rallying the crowds, but they don't show us as much him as often. Him having meetings with President Kennedy, with him being in the rooms where policy and legislation takes place. All they want to show us is him talking to the masses. And we know that that is absolutely necessary, but we also need to be in the rooms and the spaces to make sure that this change is being implemented as well.
exactly. And so, and I'm glad you brought that up because I actually have, I posted a black and white picture because, you know, I found a million of them, but, the black and white picture, you know, and even I know back then they didn't have, I don't know what technology was back then, but it was 68. I'm sure they had colored cameras. But you know, posting the images, omitting information, she was just saying, Sierra was just saying, you know, forgetting, right? I'm putting my little quote fingers up here, forgetting to let us see him speaking to people about legislation, bills, laws, all of those things. Because guess what? They don't want us to be the second thing I'm going to talk about, omitting. The second thing is influence, right? They don't want us to be influenced because look, we all talk about how images, right? Images influence us. If I see, you know, God, I can't even say this. I don't even want to bring this up, but I'm gonna bring it up. Okay, so if I see people doing they got some challenge, bust it down challenge, right? Images, music, whatever you got going on for marketing, whatever promotion. When you see things, people are so easily influenced. You just don't even understand. People are easily influenced, and the images and the messages that you put in front of them influence them, and their messages that they put in front of us about Dr. King make us docile. They make us, you know, hey, let's not get angry. And they use the Bible and they use Dr. King. Look, one of the things one of the things, I know, don't even go there. One of the things that grew like a hard pit in my stomach was after the young man was killed in Texas. And please forgive me if anybody is related to him. I'm definitely not trying to offend anybody. I'm just talking about the influence that these people, that systemic racism has over us. That's all I'm trying to point out. When I saw on Facebook, right? I saw on Facebook a lady who was responding on the news in the local area in Texas. And she said, one thing about it is the great commandment of God is that we are to forgive. And I was like, wait a minute. The brother just got shot. How are we already? And so now you have a Caucasian person telling us that if we are Christian, it's our duty to forgive. When somebody killed my brother, it's my duty. And so the influence, right? When we don't see these images of him demanding laws be changed. I know we're in an atmosphere now where we asking people stuff. You need to go watch Dr. King. Dr. King was demanding. He was making a point. He was directing them to the things that he wanted. Not like Ice Cube meeting with Trump and trying to come up with a plan. Look, You have to have relationships with people. I didn't even want to go there either. But you have to have relationships with people, and you have and the influence is just real. So they don't show us those things, right? They just show us, like I said, him standing on the hill, thousands of people out there with his I have a dream speech. And because we have, the next thing I'm going to go on and skip to is conditioning. Because we've been conditioned, right? We're not even looking. No, who's reading Dr. King's letters now? Who's looking for these interviews? Who's trying to find out what was his plan right before he died? Because they're not putting images in front of us that would even provoke us to want to learn more. They're presenting Dr. King as this was the end all be all, was him giving a speech, saving the garbage men in Memphis, which I grew up right across the bridge from Memphis. And that's the last message they want us to have about the king. But I want you to have the message that it was deeper than that. He was reaching across tables. He was at the table. And this is what moved them to do what they did to him. It wasn't a dream, guys. It was his plan. That's what it was. So they omit, they influence, and by doing that, they've conditioned us. The next thing, the next topic I want to go to under all of this umbrella I'm giving you today is shaping our world from his words, not the words that they shoot out to us every year, but from his words. And we know that he talked about economic empowerment. Why did he talk about that? He talked about that, number one, from what he saw. He saw Black men weren't working. He saw they couldn't provide for their families. He saw that they couldn't afford to take care of their children, to buy a car, to buy a home. He saw that they weren't able to establish businesses. That's what he saw with his own eyes. Dr. King said he would walk into the communities before he even spoke in the community. Talk about respect. Talk about honoring, being honored. This was a real man. Of course, he had a degree and he was a reverend, but he was just a man at heart, because he's Dr. Martin Luther King. He could have just showed up. People were, may have been giving him, I know that, they were giving him money because one person, I just watched that movie One Night in Miami. And I think as part of the conversation, somebody gave him $50,000 or something like that. And I've heard of people giving him 10,000, donating, whatever. So he already had a platform. He could have just walked into these spaces, did a speech. Everybody knows him, and it would have been good. But he took the time to visit communities, to visit businesses, to talk to the brothers on the street, to ask the ladies, how's it going, to engage with the children. So he's speaking from a place of what he saw with his own eyes. This is not something he sat at a desk and read the numbers. No, he got out there, as they say, boots on the ground. And he did the work. And that's what we have to do. We have to be shaped in our world, present world right now, by his words and by his action according to his plan, which is still the same thing we're trying to accomplish today. And so he saw that. The next thing he did after he saw it with his own eyes, got the information for himself, is he planned. He built relationships, and he created plans around those relationships. Who do I talk to? Who runs the Ford Motor Company in Detroit? Right? This is what he did when he went to Chicago. Who runs this industry? Who runs this factory? Why aren't there Black delivery drivers in your area? So you got to build relationships with people who are in places politically, industry wise. You have to build these relationships. You just don't pop up. You have to create these relationships so you can have an effective plan and effective strategy. So he saw it, right? He got in and he planned, and then he executed. He did. Let me tell you what we got today. We got a lot of people that talk, right? That don't even know what's going on. And I'm not criticizing you. I'm just trying to a place of awareness. It would be detrimental for me to just, even with all the information I call myself having, and with all the knowledge I call myself having, it's detrimental to me to just step into a community that I'm not familiar with, right? I don't know the people. I don't know what their needs are. I don't know who to speak to that would even help me be a greater influence in this community. So as we're moving along, let's think about that. Nothing wrong with starting from the bottom as long as you get started. So as we're shaping our world with his words, think about those three things. When you step into a community, and I'm preaching to the choir, I promise you I'm preaching to the choir, I'm preaching to myself. When you when you step into a community, find out, do an evaluation, get to know the people where you want to have influence. And a good place to start is with your family, because your family. And then start telling friends and neighbors, and then, you know, keep moving on. And then he started doing the work. The last little section is moving into the 2021 era. We are all now at a place of more awareness than we've ever had before. I think I'm almost 50. I've never heard these conversations before. I've never, ever heard Black and white people speak out about racism and systemic racism. I was in a room on Clubhouse the other day, and they literally had a room open called Black Women and White Women Get to Ask whatever questions you wanted to ask to a white woman, something like that. When I tell you they were asking the tough questions, the uncomfortable questions, the hard questions, and it was a back and forth. White women were asking questions, Black women were asking questions, even a couple of Black men got on. But as we're thinking about moving into this 2021 era, we are having conversations we've never had before. And you know what? We can't take it back. We can't go back to being the way we were before. We can't even relax now, because look, we're so close to coming out of this whole debacle of racism that we can't even we can't even be comfortable not being great at this point as Black people. I cannot be comfortable. The other day, a police officer was behind me. I was on my way to work. He literally followed me. This guy literally followed me almost to the doorstep of my job. And I'm telling you, I turned a lot of corners, because that's how it takes, a lot of corners to get way back in that rural area where I do work. And so the officer got behind me. When I tell you, felt different, like I didn't feel Black like I used to feel Black. I used to feel Black. Now I'm put a little grace on this, because I grew up in a small town, and my dad had a little money at the time. And so I used to talk to the police real crazy, and they never gave me a ticket or anything like that. So a little bit of that carried over into my adult life. So I will talk smack to an officer. However, since I've been married and relocated, and I'm of course married to a Black man, I have been in some situations where a gun has been drawn on me and my husband. I've been in situations where my son was threatened by an officer. So I do definitely understand both sides of the coin. We had a deacon at our church who was harassed by the officers in the area where we lived in, which was predominantly white, in the suburban area of St. Louis. And so I've had these experiences. But when I was driving and this officer got behind me, I felt different. I didn't feel the same Black I felt last year. I just felt a little bit more empowered. I felt a little bit more equal. I felt a lot more of how I'm supposed to feel. Like I'm not even supposed to feel a certain type of way just because I live in America. And I felt that in that moment. I felt like, look, you better have a reason to stop me, because I have equal rights. And that's important, that we are aware, right? We are aware of this moment that we are living in. We are aware of who we are. We are aware of them, being cognizant, and they know what they've done, and they know what they're doing. We've got to come to a place where we understand that. Like I said, he had more than a dream. He had a whole plan. And then move into partnership. Grow some relationships, move into some partnerships. And I'm not just talking about, getting with white people and all and doing all of that. I'm not just talking about that. That's not all I'm talking about. I'm talking about grow some relationships within your community, in your family, and in your church, and then go out and approach these city council members for what's needed in your community. Go out and approach the Board of Education about what's needed in your community. Go out and speak to your senator and your state representative about what's needed in your community. Because why? We're aware. And now what? We got to build these partnerships. We got to form these bonds. We got to group together. And then finally, progress. That's where we get. When we take all of these steps and we do all of these things, we have progress. I want you to see a picture. It's the Poor People's Campaign, 1968. Reverend Barber now runs the Poor People's Campaign. And I donate whenever I can. It doesn't matter how little. I still know my donation counts. And so Reverend Barber runs the Poor People's Campaign today. Talk about building partnerships. This is a partnership. The NAACP, Black Lives Matter, the Poor People's Campaign, funding the African History Network, Roland Martin Unfiltered. All of those things are important if we want to actually progress. So I'm just here to just tap you in and let you know that there is more to Dr. King than the I Have a Dream, the little part of the I Have a Dream speech that they share with you. There is much more than that little portion of his words. And I want us to understand that. I'm going to leave you with this. Make sure you appreciate the skin that you are in. Okay? Love the skin you're in. Because at the end of the day, just like God gave Dr. Martin Luther King a plan, God has a plan. Continue to keep the faith, guys. This is Kathleen, your conscious coach. I'm glad today. I am the author of the Conscious Book Collection. Look for it in my bio. I'm the author of 4 different books. I'm chosen. I'm an educator, author, speaker, and writer. And I am Kathleen Harrod, your conscious coach. Just wanted to jump on here for a little while and do a little education and just make you consciously aware as coach. Have a great night. Bye. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me on Clubhouse. Thanks for joining me on my streaming platforms. You guys have an awesome night.